So just a bit of a scenery change for today. The story I want to share is such a beautiful example for me about our inheritance. And when we pick up that where our great grandparents or our grandparents or our parents actually left off, and where we actually pick up that banner and that thing that we go with. And there's two parts to the story, because our grandparents or parents or great grandparents, they followed Jesus and they were dedicated to him. And we pull into that slipstream, and we just continue to build on that, and there's such a blessing that flows through our lives. And the other part to this is where we don't have that inheritance, but we need to take that up now, and leave that kind of inheritance to to our children. We maybe didn't have great grandparents that followed Jesus, or parents or grandparents, but it's now our responsibility as believers to take that, to take up that banner, and leave something for our children and our grandchildren, great grandchildren. We have a lady in the village that's been working with us basically since the beginning, and she translated for us because her English is very good. So she actually started translating for us before she became born again, and it's through the translating and stuff like that that she became born again. And how God just accelerated her was beyond it was beyond imagination. God just completely came and he accelerated her in 2 or 3 years, where other people that have been in the church for 10 or 20 years, hadn't reached that level that she was on in a matter of 3 years. And that was so amazing to see that, and her growth, how it just happened. And I mean, obviously you get to know people as life progresses. And as it turns out, her great grandfather was a missionary, one of the first missionaries in the Transkei area. And he was also someone that helped translate the Bible from English into Xhosa. And so she's got such a rich inheritance. And just to see her tapping back into that thing, having come from not having a relationship with Jesus, but going to one of the traditional churches, and then completely change her life and accepting Jesus, and how God just honors the inheritance that she had in her great great grandfather. So that was such an amazing testimony for us, and for me personally as well, is that we must look at our inheritance, where our great grandparents came from, or our grandparents came from. And that's where that verse in Romans 8, for me it's such a beautiful thing, where it talks about inheritance, and I want to read it. But before I read it, Romans 8 is such a beautiful chapter in the Bible for me, because it for me personally, it's a summary of the whole New Testament in one chapter, and that's so amazing to see. But I want to quickly read Romans 8, and it's from verse 17. It says there, and since we are his true children, we qualify to share all his treasures. For indeed, we are heirs of God himself, and since we are joined to Christ, we also inherit all that he is and all that he has. We will experience being co-glorified with him, provided that we accept his suffering as our own. And God has an inheritance for us through our parents, our great-grandparents, that follow Jesus. But he also has an inheritance for us if we weren't in that position. If we are newly born again, the first of our family, then there's still an inheritance for us, because we now need to leave something for our children. And that's what I want to encourage you with today, is tap into your inheritance that God has for us. We are children of God. We are co-heirs with Christ. And we it is our right, we accept we accept this as believers, as Christians. And if you're the first of your family to be born again, I want to encourage you um, to also get into this. Inheritance is yours. So leave something for your children and your great grandchildren, that they can one day that they can actually be accelerated in following Jesus, in a relationship with God. So I want to bless you with that. I pray that God will show you your inheritance. I pray that God will release that inheritance into your life, and that you'll just continue to build on that, and that you'll grow that, and that it'll become stronger and stronger in your life, and that God will accelerate you in a relationship with Him, that God will accelerate you in gifting, and all those things. So be blessed in the name of Jesus.